Thank you for coming back and saying a few words to our club people. And let me just tell you, this is an audience that is the people who have committed to making changes in their own personal lives, their physical health, their awareness of what's going on, and making them into somebody whose presence makes a contribution toward the sanity in the world, bringing that back. And in the process of that kind of inner work, they typically run into resistance from family and friends and everybody in the outer world, and who think they're crazy. And I mean, everything from questioning vaccines to not hating Russia, or maybe even not hating Donald Trump or anybody else who everybody thinks you should be against in your circles. And if there's anything that you've learned, in your time up to now that keeps you from getting discouraged and keeps you in a good frame of mind, because if you let your own internal stability go, you're pretty much not useful for other people after that. So
oh yeah, absolutely.
How do you hold everything together in response to an environment that increasingly wants to go after you because of what you're doing?
Well, I can just say the people that are facing those kinds of problems, I mean, when you become a public figure, you get a lot of attacks. On social media, I get people attacking me. So you have to develop a thick skin. And you have to understand that you have a responsibility to yourself and to your family. You have to understand that the solutions are going to be found locally and individually. It's not going to be collectively. Yeah, we work together collectively for certain goals. We can work together collectively for liberty or whatever. But you have to understand, that there is a community there, but you have to do what you know is right. And so that's ultimately the issue. And you have to have the strength of your convictions. Now, for me, that comes from being a Christian. And, that's basically the standard on which I apply these different things. And I understand that the vast majority of people aren't going to agree with me on things, and people are going to hate me for what I have to say. I've had a lot of people that did that type of thing. I had former friends back in North Carolina start putting stuff up on my wife's Facebook page saying, if they don't shut down InfoWars on Facebook, I'm going to get off of Facebook. And so I said, well, cut those people off then. Give them a taste of their censorship. But before you do, give them what I have to say here about the First Amendment. So I gave her something to send to them, to tell them the importance of the First Amendment, that it transcended, their political opinions. And that was something that they were sacrificing that was very valuable. So you understand, you don't sacrifice what is in your best interest and what you understand to do. You keep an open mind. You try to talk to people about it, but you have to have the strength of your own convictions.
So you say this is held together for you by being a Christian, and yet you know that not everybody's going to become a Christian, but there are certain basic values that to you being a Christian involves, and that you're sharing just by who you are. So if that spreads out more and more, which hopefully that's what's going to happen, even in spite of all the bad stuff we've been talking about in the world when you were on the show, what kind of a world do you think that we could ideally put together going along with these values that you're living by? What would the world look like?
When I look at it, for me, being an evangelical Christian, which is a buzzword that you've heard out there, and I don't agree with the mainstream media's definition of that. To me, evangelism is just declaring something. I don't have to convince you of whether it's right or not. I mean, that's between you and God, right? I'm going to tell you what I've seen, tell you what I believe, or whatever. You make up your own decision. And I see that kind of tolerance and openness as being the foundation of our Western civilization that came out of the Reformation movement. It was tolerance and freedom of religion. You look at the foundation of Switzerland, or you look at the foundation of America. It was founded by people who were trying to flee religious persecution. Now, in some cases, they blindly did it themselves as well. But that kind of tolerance and even having a society that was open to a lot of different ideas, I think really comes out of an understanding of history and an experience of persecution and so forth, the foundations that we had of what is right and wrong, the idea that we want to have due process and not secret star chambers. These were all things that came out of persecution. A lot of it was political. A lot of it was religious. And so they put these structures in, things that we have in the Bill of Rights, if we go back and we look at the principles on which the country was founded, I think that's an important part of it. Going back to war and peace, if we look at the idea of a just war, that had some very definite principles about, you try to minimize the loss of human life. You don't get into a war except as a defensive war. You don't have a justified war unless somebody has attacked you. And then you only get engaged with the combatants. You leave the non-combatants alone. You try to minimize the loss of human life. You try to end it as soon as possible. Those types of principles are the things that Western civilization, the best of Western civilization, was built on. Nothing is ever perfect, and we can always be reforming it. But we don't want to throw away those foundations, and that's what I see happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea of tolerance that you brought up, so the connotations of that have to be clarified, because sometimes people see tolerance as the attitude, well, you're subhuman, but we'll let you live for now because we're tolerant. And I think the Christian idea is more, well, you love everybody, which doesn't mean that you admire what. It doesn't mean you're.
Why? Because there's something inherent in you that you're made in the image of God, right? And so you are something that is not to be discarded, like a piece of trash, and that's what's missing. You have these people who identify, again, anybody that they don't agree with, they are the enemy. They must be destroyed. They're the terrorist. They're the savage. They are not vaccinated, so we got to get rid of them. But they are the ones who want to be God. Right? They are the ones who want to be omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent in our life. Yeah. They are the ones who want to subsume all power. They want to dictate everything to everybody else. So when I look at this, I'm not afraid of people who believe that they're going to have to give an answer in their life to God. I'm worried about the people who think that they aren't and who want to become God in this life. Those are the people I find scary.
So the only thing we can really do as a solution is make ourselves into what we believe we should be, right?
Yeah,
because and I think we need to not go along with that.
Yeah, that's right. We have to have the strength of our convictions, and we have to look at. We have to be adult enough to look at our society and say, why do we have this? Where did this come from? Why do we have due process? Why do we have the presumption of innocence? Why do we have trials and so forth? Where did we get these things from? Understand what our history is. Understand what those things are trying to address. Think about what the world is going to look like if we wipe the slate clean, because that's what the Antifa people and others are trying to do right now. They're trying to tear down the civilization that's been built here. We need to build on the civilization, which means that we fix some of the things that are wrong and places where we've gone wrong, but we don't level it. And we don't level it because we understand how it got here and why it got here and the foundation of our society. And so let's go back and, we can throw out the bones, but we got to keep the fundamental chicken here, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I know I have to let you go, and I appreciate your being not just a public figure to inspire everybody, but I feel like you're now a human friend that we have in a really good place, and I'm grateful for that. So thanks for spending the time. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Richard. I really appreciate talking to you, and best wishes to your group there, Lost Arts.
Yeah, sounds great. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.